Before we move to 2025, get it done. Meeting minutes, updated draft minutes of the May 20th meeting have been posted on the city website. Committee reports have also been posted on the city website. We have some communications you might want to look at. And we're going to start with some presentations. First one is from Public Works, who have been working on the comprehensive plan. And what they're going to do for us tonight is show us how they got the final draft. They're still open to communications and comments and more pictures and all kinds of things. So they're going to explain what they've done so far. Is that a good introduction? Where you are, and
Would you like me to stand?
a little bit closer to this, because this is going to be, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Melissa Lee. First of all, I would like to thank the Common Council for having us here tonight. I am principal at Public Works Partners. We are certified women-owned and women-led consulting firm. We do urban planning and management consulting with offices in New York City and Los Angeles. And at Public Works, I lead our community health practice, right? That's essentially our urban planning division, and I have over 25 years of experience and an accreditation from the Congress of New Urbanism. And so my job really is to lead major planning projects across the country in cities like Los Angeles, New York City, and New Orleans. And it's really about advancing resilient neighborhoods and cities and communities. And my focus really blends urbanism skill sets with a deep experience in collaborative community planning and design. And I'm joined here tonight by members of our team. First in person, I think Jake Marley. And he is an analyst who's been working and dedicating countless hours to this comprehensive plan. And he brings a specialty in data analysis and mapping. And he's really been able to help make really complex information digestible and accessible for everyone. And then virtually, we have some team members who are also joining. We have Aaron Lesser, and he is a project manager. And he's a certified AICP planner, and he has experience leading participatory planning processes, both here domestically and internationally. And he's also helped to launch the New Jersey Office of Resilience, and he brings a trauma-informed lens to our planning projects. And we also have a representative from SLR Consulting. They have been a key contributor in the existing conditions analysis and future land use analysis as well. And then to round out our introductions quickly, we have Celeste Fry. She is our co-founder and CEO of Public Works Partners. And if Celeste is here virtually, I just wanted to very quickly say hello to everyone. Celeste?
Hello, everyone. I'm Celeste Fry. As Melissa said, I am the CEO of Public Works Partners. I've met many of you at prior meetings up in Hudson as we launched the project, and again back in December, and we are so thrilled to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you. So our team was selected to update Hudson's comprehensive plan. We had a clear directive, right? Through the lens of a community-driven process, we wanted to build a plan that reflects Hudson's shared priorities, values, and aspirations for the future. So in order, for example, to update any sort of zoning codes, cities like Hudson are legally required by the state of New York to have a comprehensive plan. So we did not take this responsibility lightly. We understand that the city's comprehensive plan was adopted 22 years ago. And for this update, this must be more than kind of checking the box. It must serve as a bold yet grounded roadmap for the next decade. So we're looking at Hudson 2035. And it's really centered on these decision-making points of view that are really driven by community. And so to that end, we've approached this process with several objectives in mind. The first being to center local voices. This includes a very extensive and inclusive outreach and engagement. We want to build on the city's assets. Each and every member of our team has really fallen in love with Hudson, its history, its people, and what you represent to the state. And so we really want to be able to leverage these opportunities, but also to really recognize what are the longstanding challenges in this process that we can help navigate. And we want to be able to translate community priorities into a clear and actionable framework that can guide future investments, that can guide future partnerships and policies to help you along the way. So essentially, together we co-created a set of goals that describe this community vision, a set of policies that really guide how to achieve these goals, and then a set of recommended programs to help implement said goals and policies. So the next slide really kind of centers around our work for the next year and a half. I'm sorry.
Which slide was it?
Oh, I apologize. That's great. Yes, the next one. I will pay attention. Then the next one. Yes, here we go. So since launching this effort about a year and a half ago, right, we've conducted an extensive review of existing plans and existing policies. We've done a deep analysis on your demographics, on your economics, including housing trends, land use patterns, and transportation systems. And most importantly, we've held a robust process around community engagement, including having over a dozen stakeholder interviews, focus groups. We've had 3 community-wide workshops. We've done pop-ups at youth centers. We've done a citywide survey where we've reached over 500 residents, over 500 residents in a very detailed survey. So the next slide, fabulous. And you can see here some of the outreach work we've done. And these are just photos of some of these points in time. The next slide, please. Saying you see us doing virtual youth engagement, presenting to you, sit on the council. The next slide. So tonight we are here to present the culmination of all of this work. This is the draft comprehensive plan of the City of Hudson. And specifically, we'd like to share what we're calling the guiding principles that have emerged from our research and from our engagement. And these are a set of high-level values that really anchor the final comprehensive plan and that shape every policy, every goal, every implementation strategy that has been developed. Thank you. Yes. So these principles are not abstract. They really reflect what we heard from you directly early on and throughout the process. And we're workshopped in this process and are validated, and more importantly, during our engagement. So quickly, I want to, if you go back to the next slide, I'll quickly walk you through these 5 guiding principles. The first being affordable Hudson. So we heard we want to make Hudson affordable, an affordable place for residents to thrive and to live. The second being livable Hudson, right? To empower Hudson as a place where residents can work, do business, and earn a living wage. Third, civic Hudson. So make Hudson a city where people feel safe, welcomed, connected to each other and the future of the city. Fourth being resilient Hudson. So design Hudson to be environmentally resilient with substantive and sound infrastructure. And then connected Hudson. Make Hudson a place where it's easy, safe, and enjoyable to walk, bike, and to get around. So really, again, not abstract. These are all of the guiding principles that surface throughout the process, and then really grounded and validated in our engagement. So to bring all of this to life, the next slide, please. We then landed on a set of 12 big planning ideas, or major objectives, really to align these guiding principles into goal setting. So you can see under each of the 5 guiding principles, we have these big ideas, right? So for affordable Hudson, it's about modernizing Hudson zoning to better respond to the needs of Hudson today. The second big idea under affordable Hudson is to improve the city's processes and capacity to promote affordability. The third being to create an anti-displacement framework. And then moving along to the second big idea, the second guiding principle for livable Hudson. The fourth big idea really centers around promoting the public realm improvements to support existing and future businesses. 6, to make Hudson a live-work city. And that's 5, sorry. 6, under Civic Hudson, was to improve public and open third spaces. The 7th big idea is to make Hudson age inclusive. The 8th, strengthen Hudson's arts and culture amenities. And then the 9th, moving in under resilient Hudson, is to preserve Hudson's natural resources while addressing sources of pollution. 10, to strengthen Hudson's resilience to the impacts of climate change. And then rounding out 11 and 12 under connected Hudson is to improve local mobility and regional access, and then to create unique Hudson wayfinding throughout the city. So this plan also includes a set of 40 actions to implement these big ideas, grounding principles, big ideas, and then a set of 40 actions to really implement these big ideas. And they range from policies to programs and to partnerships. And so I won't go through the 40 today, but you can see we've done a lot of work here. The next slide. The plan also includes future land use maps. This functions as a policy tool and a guide for the city to update the zoning ordinance. As I mentioned earlier, right, any sort of broad zoning changes must comply with the comprehensive plan as set by the requirement of the state of New York.
Sorry, Logan, for some reason that's not displaying. Is it displaying on yours?
I'm just taking notes.
Oh. It's still on the other slide. Maybe if you go back and go forward again. No, it's not forward, never mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't there a number of people from the community logged on? So
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay.
go ahead.
And then finally, the next slide, hopefully this shows up. We have created a chapter really dedicated to implementation. So this includes strategies the city could prioritize based on capital needs, timing, and community prioritization. This outlines which entities should lead, which actions, and how they could be implemented, and how they're prioritized. Again, really grounded on our processes that I've laid out for the last year and a half. So that was a very quick overview of what we've been able to accomplish. So what comes next? So the city will release the draft plan for public comment on their website starting tomorrow. This public comment period will be open for 30 days, after which your feedback will be incorporated into the final plan. We are all collectively very interested in hearing your thoughts on each of the guiding principles. There are 5, the 12 big ideas, and the 40 action goals, as well as the general feedback for the look, feel, read, and overall impact of the plan. Next slide, please. So how to provide feedback. On the city's website, there will be a link to download the draft plan in its entirety. We encourage you to take the time to review the plan from cover to cover. We have downloaded it as a PDF, so it's 2 pages per one PDF page. It's about 150 pages, so if you double that, that's how long the plan is. And we want to make sure that you know how you read the plan, right? If you download the entire plan, there are 4 body chapters. Chapter 1 really provides an overview of the planning process. I very quickly reviewed it with you today, and it highlights our inclusive engagement process. Chapter 2 really centers on Hudson today. It outlines the key findings and the trends based on our review of census, and geospatial data. Chapter 3 really represents the plan's core recommendations, really organized by our five guiding principles and corresponding strategies and actions. And then chapter 4 focuses on implementation and next steps. So this includes, guidance on phasing, proposed land use maps, and practical tools to help the plan move forward. And so you will go to the city's website, you'll download this link, and we will walk you through your public feedback. We will ask you to review each of the guiding principles, big ideas, give us your thoughts, and then at the end, give your viewpoint of the plan in its entirety. And lastly, we're asking for a poll of photos. We would love for you to submit any photo for the inclusion in the plan, and you can upload the photo either on the site or you can email it to an email list. So with that said, thank you so much for your time and your energy. It's been an honor and a privilege to be in partnership with you. And we look forward to being in continued conversation, and know that the city is looking to organize additional opportunities and spaces to gather your feedback as well. So again, encouraging you to download the plan in its entirety, and thank you.
Thank you. Council members, any questions at this point? Really an introduction, and a month to respond. Okay, public? Great, thanks so much.
Actually,
Oh,
sorry, what's the process? So that it goes up on the website tomorrow, you said.
Correct.
And then there's how long for
30 days.
a public comment?
That is correct.
And then after that, then what?
So after the 30-day public comment period, we will gather everyone's feedback, and then we will take the time to incorporate the feedback. Then we will deliver a final plan back to you, which goes in front of you for approval.
Okay, so your group looks at the comments and then revises it and makes the final.
Yes.
Lori?
I had one other question.
Yes.
So, will we be able to see what feedback you got?
We can make that available. That is something that is going to be gathered into one big document.
Yeah.
And that can be.
So for transparency, we can see what people have to say about it and if and how the plan changed on that.
Correct.
Lori?
Quick question, so when do you anticipate the final plan to be available?
After the 30-day period, we don't need a lot of time. We need probably a few weeks.
It's been 2 months,
I believe at the max.
the max.
Correct.
So this is June, July, so by August,
Before then is our plan.
excellent.
What is your group for it? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, this is a night of presentations. The next one, as the council should know already, since I sent them a preview, we're hearing from a group that is proposing a redevelopment of the JLE school. It's Penrose. And I don't know who's actually here for them. Ah, okay. We wanna take it through? Sure.
I'm going to pronounce for members of council too.
Oh, Michigan PowerPoint. Traditional.
We also have this. Sure. Hi, everybody, members of council. I'm Dylan Salmons. I'm one of the coordinators and regional vice president of Penrose. I'm joined here with Paul from Zabella Associates, also a civil engineer and seeker specialist, and then also Portia Daves, spending her summer with us in her graduate program. We'll let these get circulated a little bit. So we're here tonight to give a brief introduction of both Penrose, the experience that we have doing adaptive reuse work throughout the Northeast, as well as talk a little bit about the project schedule overall.
Do you think you could pass some of those out to the public?
And then cover a little bit about schedule and sort of the next steps that go into repurposing JLE for apartments for seniors to live. Sound good? First slide. So Enterprise Group is a 50-year-old privately held real estate development company. We got started in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And over the course of the last 50 years, have grown into about a 26-state footprint. Our focus is addressing the affordable housing crisis, has been since we got started. As a company, we routinely start on the construction between 1,000 to 2,000 units of affordable housing every year. Most of that focused on finance through the federal low-income housing tax credit program, which is a bipartisan effort to provide tax credits to investors to invest in affordable housing production. And our core markets are mainly in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic states. Our team, in addition to producing the 350 plus developments that have been to date, the New York-based development company, next slide, is a group of folks that are interdisciplinary development, physicians, management, property management, and we're based down in Brooklyn, but routinely up and down the Hudson River and as far west as Buffalo. I started that office 9 years ago now, and in that time we've preserved and or created 1,700 affordable housing units. Are actively working to close on the construction of another just shy of 700 units this year, and they have a really cool pipeline, including things like JLE for about another 2,000 units. So we're actively addressing New York State's affordable housing crisis from a Brooklyn office. As a company, one of our hallmarks has been and continues to be annually adaptive reuse. One of my founders was a very steeped enthusiast in adaptive reuse structures, and so we've done over 40 of these types of projects in our past, totaling about $500 million. And so it's a specialization that lives very actively in our offices. A couple of cool case studies that we just pulled out that are relatively recent, and also Northeast and schools include the Pride. This is in Hyde Park, Massachusetts. It's a 74-unit project that included the revitalization of William Barton Rogers Middle School. This project was a little bit different than JLE, and then it also includes some new construction spaces because the school was so specific in its geometry that it lend itself to kind of an as-of-right conversion, like the thing about the JLE. But also, Senior has a large use that is a community facility space, about 10,000 square feet of it. And a really cool story in terms of working with 54th Regiment, the local volunteer organization that partner in terms of use of the auditorium space. So an example of being able to program these schools for community-based programming at the end. A little bit before and after the picture in the slide, the left-hand side is sort of pre-renovation, the right-hand side is post-renovation. A real emphasis on like bringing like lighting and very warm and thoughtful spaces back into these schools, utilization of chalkboards and specific educational elements. A lot of that is both things that Penrose is doing, but also that the National Park Service wants to see as part of using historic tax credits, which is a federal program that we expect to use here, and also the State Historic Preservation Office on behalf of NPS. So these are things that we, again, are routinely doing, and also focusing on really cool exterior living spaces. So in the rear of this project was a kind of rundown little playground, and now is a really cool, flexible space, both for passive and active recreation. So these are things that we'll be carrying into ideas for JLE. Mary Stone's also in Massachusetts. We're doing a lot of school adaptive reuse in Mass right now. This is a smaller project, smaller elementary school. The total units here is about 55, I think, 11 of which were in the original school. And then off the back of this school is a really beautiful, but very like kind of like thoughtful and discreet addition that houses the other 44 units. Also uses federal historic tax credits, was designed to meet silver standards and won a slew of these are very like bespoke, beautiful little projects, and they go on to be like really gems in our portfolio. So that's a really great example of one. For JLE, the idea is 55 and older, 65 units, largely one bedrooms, a couple of like studio loft style plus dens layouts that happen generally like in the crux of the building itself. The ambition is to repurpose the auditorium into the creation of 8 units. So it drops like kind of a steel mezzanine structure in there, brings in 8 units of housing, and then convert the cafeteria, so it's an auditorium cafeteria, into like an open resident commons area that's on the back of the building, tons of light well exposure. It's gonna be beautiful. And then the forecourt include like a really cool like community garden type space. So opportunity for some like active light recreation, younger youth area, large space, and also some community gardening for seniors, people that engage in the periphery of the site. It fronts the Alms House, but note that the Alms House is not part of the project, it's separate ownership. So it's a little carve out on there. And then this is the site plan, the big moves of that forecourt area. We do not expect to do any new construction additions, so our work stays within the four corners of the building, and also not going up any higher. The big move is we've spent the last, I don't know, it's been like 6 weeks, kind of like working through the additional due diligence, is trying to figure out some of the basic operating programs. This really is interesting, folks who haven't been through it. It kind of falls off the foot face on the back. So you've got these 2 stories in the front end, but most of the mass of the building goes down the hill. Trash goes down too. And so we've got to figure out a way without introducing some really complicated like movement of trash to get that out the back of the building in a way that keeps functioning well. So one of the things that's subtle, is not colored on this thing, is the extension of Washington Street across the back of the building and to create trash and vehicle access. Also, in the event of emergency services, we need to ladder the back of the building. We have to sort of figure that piece of it out. And then the most of the action that's happening in the front is the forecourt, the playground, the community gardening, and then all the cool stuff that'll happen on the interior of the building. Conversion design, so we cover this it's a lot of preserving of the terrazzo and classic sort of features of the school. The auditorium has this really cool sort of like, I don't know how to call it, almost like gills, fish gill looking like ceiling structure. It really will be an awesome preservation move. But then the conversion of the classrooms into the one and studio bedroom layouts. The exterior facade is a really delicate piece when you're doing these historic conversions. The state, on behalf of the National Park Service, likes to see very consistent vocabulary of materials, and so large, heavily glazed openings like the kind that are there now, the red frame windows. Those awning style windows will be a thing, they'll be triple glazed, as well as maintaining all the brick pointing style and some of the kind of classic mid-century modern aesthetic that's out there. So we'll be preserving all of that. Energy accessibility upgrades in the envelope itself, a big insulation unit will be a piece of this. In-unit washers and dryers, so in-unit laundries for all the seniors, plus a common area laundry. It's a feature that HCR wants to see. 1-for-1 plus parking, and then some really great amenities, fitness room, library, places for the seniors to really like age in place. So that, Roger, we were talking about, the need to rezone as part of this, actually.
Thank you. So, in order to be eligible to apply for the building permit, we will need 4 things, just city level. And for one, you can see that the current zoning of that property is R1, so that's single family residential. So this use would not be allowed in that zoning district. But right adjacent to R1 on that property is R4, 3-story multifamily residential, which we would be requesting a zone change for that property to R4. That's number one. Even with a zone change, the building size, there are a number of stories, it's 4 stories, it's only 3. And it's longer than the maximum length, 160 feet. So we would need variances from the zoning board of appeals, even if we get the zone change to R4. Obviously, we'll need site plan approval from the planning board, and with that all wrapped up is the secret process. We would need a secret determination. And we are proposing that you all serve as the lead agency on the secret. I'll get to that in a second. The next slide, thank you. So we put together a tentative schedule, which gets more specifically to the September submission for the HCR funding application. In order to have a document in hand, such as a secret determination, we would propose to submit a full EAF to this board this month. Get on for next month to be confirmed as lead agency and begin the secret circulation process, the type 1 action, so it would be a coordinated review. We would look to respond to any comments you have by August and prepare the final determination or negative declaration in September. Beyond that, we would work with the zoning board of appeals and the planning board to get the site plan approval and zoning variances that we would also need.
Yeah, so the real purpose of that schedule, we'll circle back to schedule at the end, we love a good schedule, is working towards that HCR application. And so while like the actual site plan approval process, will follow in natural progression with the planning board, to submit an application that is highly competitive, we'll want to get through the negative declaration of secret. It's a really competitive region that this project falls within. As some of you probably heard from other projects. We want to make sure we put our best foot forward on the first try. In addition to that, we'll be working with the county on pro-housing. And so this governor's budget
Can I just ask a question about the timing on this application? So the deadline for your application is September?
Yeah, so the funding round hasn't been released yet. We expect it to be released probably towards the end of July, by the 45-day window, and then applications will be due to HCR in like the second week of September.
Okay.
That's
And if you don't make that deadline, what is the next cycle? Is
Their
it
annual.
1 year later?
Yeah, they're annual. Yeah, it's
And are you aware of some of the issues that have been identified with that building? So the previous attempt, so you're fully aware of all this?
Yes, yeah, we received all the environmental reports on the previous attempt. We came into this with a more comprehensive renovation scope to begin with, just because we've done so many of these things.
Yeah.
Not to say you ever know anything in a historic building, we just did one the other day, and it's really perplexing. But yes, we came in with a pretty heavy budget. I think the piece of this that we hadn't expected, and that's why I pointed out that street in Washington, was like the movement of some of the operations. And the need to modernize, not only modernize the singular elevator that's in there, but add in a second elevator that is fully ambulatory. That elevator modernization itself would be providing infrastructure capacity, so.
Other questions you have?
I'm sorry.
Jennifer?
Well, since my house is on this map, I really wanted to ask you questions about the extension of Washington Street.
Sure.
And maybe this is a little question. I remember that at one point, when it was still a school, they wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to extend Washington through the back. And from my recollection, it was gonna cost them $2 million just to build the road. And there were major problems. If you cannot build the road, is there, would this still be a viable project for you? Because I'm honestly excited. I'm not excited about the zone change just because it will affect other things right there. I know of some plans that I'm not thrilled with, by a slumlord in our town who like also built in that area. Maybe with the road, he won't, I don't know. Yeah, I'm, the concern is the road for me. I'm really excited about this. I think it could be great. I love that building. I'm kind of attached to it. I've been through it several times. It needs love. It needs to be turned into something incredibly useful, and this would be great. I'm just concerned about zoning in the road.
Yeah. We're looking at whatever alternative we can to operationalize the movement of like trash service in the building. At the end of the day, in addition to being homes, like trash is one really just constant thing. And so we want to make sure we come up with an operation that's viable long-term. And so our gut, reaction is to do that limited just for that purpose. Twice a week pickup kind of thing, screen it, landscape it, but I can understand it.
That's not my major concern, like
Okay.
me having to look at it is not a concern. I was more concerned that because I knew that the school wasn't able to do that because of the immense cost, and there were other concerns. That I don't know if you looked into that.
It would be challenging for sure, but it can't done it.
Yeah, Rich?
So City Hudson is a small city, 6,000 people and a $19 million budget. And part of the issue is that we're also the county seat, so we have many properties which are off the tax rolls. Now, when we talk about federal tax credits, what does that actually mean? Will this property be on the City of Hudson tax rolls? Will you be paying property tax like everyone else? So you can ask for a credit. Is this a nonprofit? How does that actually work? Because I don't want to see the property owners of the City of Hudson burdened any more than they have to.
Great, 3 questions in one. So the low-income housing tax credit program is a federal program for tax rebates for investors, mostly those seeking credit reform act status, so banks. So banks that want to take deposits in places need to score high on CRA. CRA is scored on investing, lending, and services. Low-income housing tax credit projects generally hit all those 3 things. And so you'll have a bank like JP Morgan Chase Bank, for instance, who will come in, buy a 10-year stream of tax credits for an upfront dollar figure that goes to build a building, and then their 10-year stream of credits winds down and they're gone. So unlike a conventional real estate project where you have someone who shows up with a $10 million and says, hey, I need $20 million back in 5 years, the bank politely walks away at the end. So that's why the that program is so sustainable. That's that. It doesn't change the tax status of the project. It doesn't change the tax status of the partnership that owns the project. It's purely a federal tax credit program, both on the low-income housing tax credit side and the historic tax credit side. Those will stay.
So you're paying property taxes.
Yes, so the project will come onto the tax rolls for the first time. It's tax exempt now, determined by the school district. The project will come onto the tax rolls. We will be seeking a payment in lieu of taxes pilot agreement to enable us to take on a first mortgage and finance the project over time. But that will be subject to the IDA's uniform tax exemption policy. We'll be applying for that pilot in the next 2 months.
So the ownership of the building, to go back to Rich's question, she's saying you'll come back on the tax rolls.
Correct.
The ownership will be with your organization?
Correct.
And as Rich asked, are you not for profit
We
or
are a for-profit company.
you're for profit?
We will establish the ownership as a housing development fund corporation under your state statute.
Yeah.
But Vicky,
Yeah, it's pretty much the same questions. And also,
Yeah.
are they only one bedroom? Like, what's the square footage for these units?
They're one bedrooms and like, because they're adaptation of like classrooms, they range in size, but they're pretty large one bedrooms, like 700 square foot one bedrooms and like.
Gary?
Thank
Oh,
you.
sorry.
The end game here, do you eventually plan on offloading this portfolio or individual projects?
No, our goal as a workforce development group set around affordable housing is to create jobs for our employees. So we're a long hold company. A lot of stuff we've had in the portfolio, been in the portfolio this entire time. Like 40+ years.
So you are maintaining the buildings that
Yep,
you.
so we'll professionally manage it through a management company. Our people will become staff people there, our people will become neighbors there. We have a long hold strategy.
Dominic?
Just a couple questions. So with the Washington Street extension, is that part of the property now? Because I thought the property is only the school, not the fields on back.
The backside, if we could just scroll back to that, one more back, 2 more. So you see like the property lines with the dash lines, I don't know how much further you can see it, but there's.
So it's the big hill.
Yeah, that like intersection right there, this is all privately owned, but both sides of this property line of school district are site controls with the school district. We did not enter into contract for this.
Right.
We would have to negotiate an easement for this access.
And then on the schedule, I didn't see anything about the referendum for it to be on next year's school to be voted on for the sale.
Our understanding from the school district, are there any members of the school district here? Is that they wanted to take this for a public vote in July. So our expectations are to continue with that through notice in June and then go to vote in July,
Oh, this July.
this July.
That's pretty quick. I don't know. And now since you're doing federal tax credits, tenants are going to be in a lottery, so there's no preference to housing residency or anything like that. It's going to be in a lottery.
To be determined.
To be determined.
To be determined. Yeah. I think it's part of the negotiation process with the tax jurisdictions.
And then in terms of, since they're seniors, I'm assuming their rent's going to be eligible for Section 8 and any kind of other housing assistance?
Yeah, so part of our housing, we'll have no ability to discriminate against Section 8, but we're also not using any project-based Section 8 here. So tenants come bearing tenant protection vouchers, they will be admitted under fair housing, but we're not seeking any project-based Section 8 assistance to the property.
Right.
And all be 60% AMI and below.
Okay, so the rent has to be within that criteria for Section. Right. And then what about solar, any solar?
Yeah, so routinely we establish solar photovoltaic on rooftops. And this year, we're expecting that solar for all will be part of HSR's agenda, and so there'll be increased.
And because of the nature of the seniors, is there a backup generator, power loss
Yes.
during the winter heat?
Excellent questions, yes. There'll be redundancy in conveyance, so the elevators, and redundancy in the emergency lighting networks.
Right.
And the fire and alert systems for everyone. Great, really great question.
Other questions from council? Jennifer?
Well, when you guys go to take out the huge boiler, can I be there? Because I love it. I think it's really cool. It's a great building. It's really a great building.
It's gonna be a fun river.
Please treat it right. It's really beautiful. There's so much beautiful woodwork in there. There's so much beautiful, the light is incredible in a lot of those spaces.
I wish we had another, like, one of these historic projects closer, just so we could like do some tours, because like we cherish these kinds of projects. They are,
But it's temperature control, since it's half the building's underground, it's temperature control.
Richard?
You mentioned the pilot. Do you know how much and for how long? And what if you don't get that pilot from the idea?
The ideal scenario in a project that's financed with the cocktail system we're talking about here would be a pilot that matches the term of the affordability period, ideally, which would be at a minimum of 30 years. You know, it's continued discussion with the IDA as part of their UTEP. If you can't get the pilot, the project will not finish with.
It will not.
I'd love to tell you that I could, but there's gonna be no way for us to make that work. Just can work, you know,
So you still have to go to the IDA first.
Yeah.
correct.
Fine.
The IDA process, Dominic and I are on the IDA. That what they do is they have an independent consultant doing an analysis of the financials, and then they come back with recommendation on, well, this is too long a period or whatever. So that's how that's.
Yeah, it's great. That's the process we'd like to work with.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes. I'm so sorry. Have you guys had any trouble with getting grants or any other monies from the federal government, Bruce?
Yeah, it's a bit tumultuous out there right now.
Yeah.
I'm saying that like in jest, yes, like navigating, you know, the turbulence out of DC right now is difficult for everyone in our industry, for sure. It's a time where like perseverance is gonna be everything. At the same time, we just closed on a project down in the US Virgin Islands. It's been something that we've been struggling to close for the past 4 years. It's like a tremendous moment for us to like get that project going. Almost the entirety of that project is federally financed because of the storm conditions there. And so I only raise it because it gives a lot of confidence to us and our team that like, hey, there's still people there doing great work. Those will be the people we'll keep working with. So.
Also, if there's a way, because many people went to that school, and the name John O. Edwards means a lot to many people. If there's a way somehow you can memorialize that, the name, either with a plaque or something, especially for the residents that went there, and the Dr. John Edwards, who really contributed a lot to the school.
I think we're entirely opening, like, that, honestly, the piece of this business that I struggle with the most is coming up with my own name for things. So like, to the extent that we can cherish like the actual name that's there and like find a way to like do that right, I would love to.
Any comments from the public or questions? Okay, thank you very much. We can see you again soon. Moving on to our regular presentation. Fire. Mr. Fireman. There you go.
Had 33 calls for the month of May. And like a mixed bag of calls last month, get a little bit of everything. Cell phone battery fire in a hospital. Couple emergency calls, lift assists, gas leaks, gasoline, natural gas. 2 times for power lines down, 2 service calls, utility calls from Germantown and 1 for Howard. Sorry, there was 3. We were covering calls for Greenport one day. Yeah, one call. But then 18 false alarms. It's below 33.
Okay. Questions from council? Public? Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
33. The youth department.
Good evening, Chelsea. Alrighty, so, I do have, the soft copy as well. And so, last month, in May, myself and staff, we attended an annual conference in Albany. This is, often our opportunity to train up staff. We do this with the New York State Network for Youth Success. This year, the conference took place at the Hilton in Albany. And it was a 2-day conference for us. And the focus of the workshops varied. I went to a workshop around staff retention as a means to keep the staff that we have on board, while also pursuing some other staff development. I sent a lot of the staff to social emotional learning workshops to be better suited to deal with the behaviors and emotions of our developing youth. And so I won't read it line by line here, but that is a way that we invest in improving the quality of programming as well as our staff. Some of the other things that we're working on is we have a filmmaker, Carl Madsen. He's working with us to create a documentary about the youth center's legacy. And so part of that is interviewing former members, current members, folks like Tyrone Hedgepeths of the world, who's been with the department for decades, really as a means to capture the legacy and impact of the youth department. So stay tuned for that. May 16th, we also had our 518 day. We had volunteers from the Lakeland Food Bank, which you can see in the photos here. They came to Oakdale to help us spruce up the lake, as well as removing some of the weeds, the algae in the lake as well. And then on May 20th, we had a presentation at the Spark of Hudson that led itself to the water quality study that's been going on for a couple of years now. And I know optically the Oakdale may not look ideal right now, but we do have a remedy between guards routinely rigging out the algae. Monday, we will apply a non-toxic algicide, which coincides with public beach use as well as our preparation for camp. So it's the same, it can be applied the same day, or it can be applied and you can swim the same day with no issues. And then we also took time during the extended Memorial break just to spruce up the youth center, prep for Oakdale camp, and just make good use of that time while the kids were out of the building. And so, you can go to the next slide. These are just some visuals of the work that took place on the 518 day, and the lifeguards were at Oakdale this past Saturday as well, continuing those efforts to skim off the algae in the lake. Next, programming is going well. With some of the nicer weather, the kids are able to get outside and just really get some of that fresh air and do the things that kids like to do. Jump rope, play with chalk. We can slide to some of the visuals. We are continuing to do programming with FRCC with Linda and Mr. Monray. The kids are always excited to do those programming because it often includes a story along with the craft that typically coincide with like a STEM activity. Those are some of the artwork from the students. And so again, that's for our K through second group who that is over at the Episcopal Church on Union Street. And then we also have continued programming for our 3rd to 8th graders. They took a trip to the Claremont State Park where they did some activities revolving around the garden club there. And then we also we were donated a pool table. Joan Hunt donated a pool table to us, and so we've added a second pool table to the rec room. And then we also are doing storytelling with Miss Padilla. June 20th to the 22nd, there will be a play at MC Smith, 7 o'clock. The play is called Nkinje, Cursed by Beauty. So our students have been supporting this ensemble by creating costumes and backdrops and things of that nature. And so for those interested, you can attend that free of charge on MC Smith, June 20th through the 22nd at 7 o'clock. And then, of course, we continue to get our meals from recovery. Can't thank them enough. They really allow us to really pour into the kids rather than being in the kitchen and prepping food. And so those are just some continued visuals of the 3rd through 8th group. And team programming has been steady. With May being a shorter month, again, as I mentioned, with that Memorial Day weekend, teams still show up to the space. But keep in mind, we're also kind of battling with athletics. It's the end of the school year. Things are winding down. And so I think the teams just always appreciate that we have space for them. We often recognize our littles and the teams by doing bi-monthly cupcake parties to just celebrate birthdays as well as pizza parties. When it comes to the K to second registration and attendance, we increased to 33 daily. That was just a one-up from last month's report. We have a daily average of 18 meals being served. And we don't have a mandatory attendance policy, so we still exist as a drop-in, so that that attendance does vary. For the 3rd through 8th group, we increased to 72, which last month I believe was 71, so an additional 1, and we are averaging about 22 suppers served in our 3rd through 8th group. And then for team registration, we stayed at 53 this month. And we were serving about 12 suppers to the team group. And then a bit about Oakdale Camp as we get closer to Oakdale Camp. Currently, we have a little over 130 campers registered at the moment, but we anticipate that number to go up, especially again as we wind down the school year. I think families are looking for summer plans, somewhere to send their campers. And so registration is still available on our website. And so we encourage folks to seek that out and give us a call if you have any questions about that. We had a large turnout of counselor interest. We couldn't hire them all. And so fortunately, we collaborate. We have a good partnership with the workforce over at the college. They help bring on board as many as possible. But again, we're not able to hire everyone, but I think it just shows the legacy and the interest that our community has in the youth department. We're also continuing to offer swimming lessons to the public, as well as our baby and me program for parents and infants. And so we're hopeful that with the treatment that's being applied in the lake, that we'll be able to have a full summer where we can offer these lessons to the public. And then this is our flyer for the swimming lessons. Covers everything in terms of the baby and me classes, as well as swimming lessons for the public. That is our information page. Again, provided folks have issues about camp, programming, anything of the sort, feel free to contact us.
Questions from council members? Vicky?
Thank you, very good presentation. So, how many campus were last year? Do you remember?
In total, I want to say, shy of 200.
Okay, so you were anticipating more down
Yeah.
there. And is Oakdale, is the water gonna be clean? Is it not, I mean,
So here now, the water is not toxic, right? You can come and go. I know visibly, it may not look the best, but it's healthy. It's able to support aquatic life, which is a good sign that it's doing what it needs to do. But again, to that surface level algae, the algicide that we applied should eliminate that.
When you test the water last time,
The water test.
The water test quality?
Yeah.
I could get back to you on that. We did, at the presentation on May 20th, that lended itself to a lot of the details, about the water sampling. But I can certainly follow up with you on that.
Is the bike co-op still going on?
Thanks, Dominic. Yes, I forgot to include the bike shop. Yes, we also had a lot of applicants for the bike shop as well. But yes, we will continue to offer the bike co-op as well this summer.
Are you planning on doing a float or participating in Flag Day at all?
Yes, we'll also be taking up my June report.
Sorry.
Yeah, we'll be in the parade as well this summer, this year, and so we look forward to seeing you all there as well.
Thanks.
Right.
thanks, Alvin, were you aware that a bunch of people were planning on going to the Oakdale Park on Saturday?
I've heard, this past Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so who's your point man? Is there somebody in charge of the lake that you consult and you take?
Being on the director of the department, it'll fall back on me.
Well, see, but it's a big lake,
Right.
and it's not just, servicing, the youth department, other people use it. We actually have somebody who takes responsibility for the quality of the lake that you're aware of. So you're kind of taking it on yourself, is that what I mean?
So to your question, if you have questions about the lake or how you can show up is your question about removing the algae?
It's basically the algae, because there's a bunch of people that showed up on Saturday
Right.
to remove the algae.
Right.
So Liz kind of told me when I told her about it last week, she told me that no, they shouldn't show up.
So I think to that, we just want to be collaborative, right?
Well, I tried to be.
I hear that. And so I think moving forward, as long as you can communicate that to us, we can plan to have the guards.
Listen, I know you, we've had many conversations.
I'm trying to give you an answer.
No, so let's just be straight with me. You don't bring blah, blah.
The other one, I please.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As long as he's respectful.
You keep cutting me off.
Go ahead.
So in collaboration with the lifeguards,
Mhm.
it's no problem if the community wants to show up and remove the algae. However, it cannot take place during Canada.
Absolutely.
So again, it's a collaborative partnership.
What happened on Saturday?
I'm listening. Yeah, so I think we're good. Thanks for
No, we're not good.
Okay.
No, I'm not done. What happened on Saturday? I'm sorry, this is something that was to pursue. And I have a right to pursue it. What happened on Saturday? You said the lifeguards showed up on Saturday. They did not.
That's what
I was there. No, they showed up on Sunday. So let's just get our facts straight. Okay?
Thanks.
All right, no, to clarify that. Okay, I'm not done.
Right.
So, listen, I'm gonna ask for your resignation right now.
Okay, bye.
Lloyd, if you're gonna disrupt the public meeting like this,
Just making a vote.
it's not the right time to have an argument with someone.
Okay. Moving right along.
Move right along.
Chief,
Please, Mr. President.
Good evening, everyone. So for the body cam reports for May, nothing to indicate any training needs at this time. Number of use of force incidents were 0. Number of arrests were 37 for 51 total charges. Number of emotionally disturbed person calls was 12. We did have one call involving suspected drug overdose, which Narcan was administered. It was a 26-year-old subject who was found unconscious. He was issued a dose of Narcan and then came to, was transported to CMH. No accidents involving pedestrians for last month. I want to mention on the 19th, officers responded to an echo level call of a 92-year-old woman. Her son was doing CPR, performing CPR. Officers stepped in to assist. She was revived and subsequently brought to CMH as well. She was revived prior to having to administer a shot from the AED. It was hooked up by the rescue squad, but she came back before that had to happen. We are familiar with complaints about e-bikes, but it's not e-bikes. It's like the motorbikes where people are kind of trying to say, hey, we have an e-bike, but we also know that if it's not, if there's no pedals on there, we can write them for unregistered motor vehicle, uninspected. So we're trying to navigate that because I know that there have been a lot of complaints about that with our department and just, I think, throughout the community and probably to the council at some point in time. Rich, I received your email. I don't know if you saw my response. I did respond to you prior to the meeting. But complaints about parking, different things. So we're addressing that on our end as well. So if you have any complaints about any particular spot, please send them our way because we're trying to address it as we get there. Flag Day is coming up Saturday. We posted the information about parking restrictions. So if anybody has any questions about that, we did find out tonight from Russo's that the bridge will be open to pedestrian traffic, not vehicle traffic. So we will be utilizing that for pedestrians instead of having to reroute everyone down past Amtrak for that. So we got that information as well as being able to utilize the Hall Road to get vehicles out of the city as well. So hopefully we don't have as much overlap as we have in the past for those things. We did hire, I know Captain Miller mentioned it last month, but we did hire our 23rd officer on the 27th. So now we're at our budgeted strength for officers. So thank you.
Thank you. Question, Margaret.
I want to follow up on the e-bike situation. I was actually going to try and meet with you. I've had a number of complaints about that. So I think it would be helpful to know exactly what the regulations are with regard to.
I have something I can send you
That would be
on that.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
So
I know particularly up on the boulevards, it's
it's been a very big issue.
Yes.
So does that include whether or not helmets are required?
Yes, it gives a chart of like a threshold of what is required, what's not required, that sort of
And
thing.
then how do you?
If there's a pedal assist, none of that's required.
So if it's a pedal assist, it's treated like a bike?
Yes, but most, I would say e-bikes, just for lack of a better term right now, motorbikes, they're not pedal assist. We've been getting complaints about.
Okay.
If you can send that information to all of us. that would
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
great. Thank you.
And then maybe if the city could post it prominently so that people know what the regulations are.
But it's so hard to catch them. The thing is, there is one guy goes Parkwood of Glenwood.
Mhm.
It's impossible to get them.
Yeah.
You have to be
We
serious.
try to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, please don't do this, be mindful of your neighbors. But that doesn't always work.
So, I have a question. There's a resolution,
For tonight,
from you, yeah, isn't it? Yes,
there's 2.
yeah. So there is one, about 25,000.
There's one about the red.
So-
Red dot
Targeting
signs.
red
I mean-
dot.
Yes, so what I'd like to know is that money coming, is it federal money or is coming out of the city?
It's from our federal use money. That's money that was taken from like DEA funding that we received. that is in an account that can only be used for specific things. It's not in the city budget. It's separate from that.
So I had another question about that resolution. Because Vicky and I had been talking about the source and we thought it was probably federal one because it said shared.
Mhm.
So we weren't sure whether it was a combination of city and federal. But it sounds like.
So the shared equitable fund just means like the funding that we receive from the government based on like seizures from
Yeah.
drugs or things.
That's
From the
what shared.
DEA. It just means it's shared between different agencies.
So the other question I have, when was the last time a Hudson City officer had to discharge that weapon?
Maybe,
80s
well, for a person, you mean?
or animal?
I mean, an animal, yes.
No, I don't mean
Animal.
leaving animals out.
Geez, probably decades ago.
So
And that's a good thing.
it
That's
is a good thing. So it is a good thing, but I guess when I was, are you gonna be here for when we're looking at that resolution?
Unfortunately, I have to leave, so if it's okay with the president or for any
Can we
questions.
just talk about that? So, it just seems, is this really a necessary thing to increase kind of, can you explain to us exactly what this is?
Sure, I mean, that's why I wrote the resolution,
Yeah.
generated the resolution as it was, so we
Yeah.
could try to explain some things. For me, I think it is necessary. We can talk about, active shooter incidents and active attacks, and for me, it's just kind of planning for the just in case, right? We can sit here and say, it's not necessary right now because those incidents have not happened here, but it's also to help with accuracy for officers under stress, to try to minimize any harm to bystanders in case something did happen, and to just kind of not be stuck, I think, in the past with other agencies and technological advances that have happened. I don't want us to kind of get stuck where we're at a disadvantage in case something were to happen. And it's not just the school. We do have a pretty large school district right within our jurisdiction, but it's also, what was that? I don't remember, 10, 12 years ago, we had a standoff with somebody with a rifle at the hospital. We have so many churches in Hudson as well. So it could happen, these situations could happen right here in Hudson or adjacent to us. And I would just like for us to be prepared for that.
So what this would do is, take existing weapons and equip them with this additional technology. That's what this is.
Yes. Well, it'll end up replacing it. It'll be a trade. So
Okay,
it's the same weapon we have. It's just
an enhanced version.
yes.
So I guess the reason I'm asking the question is, increasing militarization of the police force can be a concern. But
I mean,
get
it
what-
would
I
be
get what-
hidden.
I get what
It
you're
would be
saying.
hidden in the holster.
No, I
It wouldn't
get
be visible from.
Yeah.
Like the.
Yeah, okay. No, I understand what you're saying, that,
Well, it's just an advanced technology tool that you want to kind of keep up with certain things and you'd rather have it and not use it.
I understand.
I share your fear, but to be very honest, when I read through the resolution, which really did explain things out, if you're pulling your weapon and firing, I want you to be as effective as possible.
And some people, I mean, for lack of any way to say it, is some people are better shot than others with iron sights, but this is supposed to reduce that, I guess that error.
Okay, all right, well, thank you for that explanation.
No, thank
That
you.
was all I have.
Any other questions from council members?
And they're annually trained on it anyway, right?
Yes.
So it's not going to be.
Yes.
Pablo?
Yeah, it's gonna be quick, just a quick question. So what is the policy the police have when they discharge their weapon? Do they go for the body? They don't go for the knee out? What is the policy? What is the training?
Would you like me to send you the policy?
Well, I can pick it up. How big is it?
I mean, it's a few pages.
it might be on.
Our use of force policy is on the city website, right?
When you use force, what's the driving principle?
I mean, we stopped with that. We should have stopped with that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up remotely is our treasurer, Heather Campbell. You there, Heather?
I'm here. Okay, let me just share my screen.
In the meantime, I'll say there's been no comments from the public on the moment.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
Now we can.
Okay, so more of the usual suspects. So these are actuals through May, so that's a little under 42% of the year. You can see that both building and plumbing permits are a little behind that amount, although I'm hoping to see them, increase during the summer building period. So obviously we keep an eye on that every month and we will continue to do so, but right now it's looking a little light. Parking revenues in total, you can see across those four categories that we follow, we're at 41% versus budget, which is pretty much exactly where we are, through the calendar year. You can see it ranges from a low of 22% and on-street parking. That does tend to be fairly variable from month to month because it depends on whether the meter guy gets out there and collects the coins and brings them to the bank. So there's always some variability there. You can see the Front Street lot is a little lower than where we are year to date, but relatively close. So it looks like that number should come in roughly where we budgeted it. I know there was some thought that it might come in significantly higher. We're not seeing that yet, but we'll obviously continue to monitor that as well. Parking and other permits, you can see that we're at about 61% of budget on that front, and that may reflect some of the people moving from the Front Street lot to the other local parking lots. And then parking tickets were at 53%, so that's a very solid number compared to the budget. So overall parking revenues as a whole look solid. Various tax revenues. So we have our first sales tax contribution number, 544.5 thousand. That's 23% of the budget. That's just about right. The first quarter is always has traditionally at least been the slightly lower out of all the four quarters. So that's looking solid in terms of reaching that 2025 budget number. Lodging tax, you have to, that's only through March. We're having some trouble with the new system reporting and being able to reconcile it against the bank. So I will have the number updated for next month through that. But suffice it to say, just looking at the bank statements, we've certainly seen much more than the 53 you're seeing. I just can't pinpoint it until it's reconciled. Tax on adult use cannabis, based on the documentation that's on the OSC website, they had anticipated issuing the first payment to the counties in roughly April, and then the county has 30 days to distribute it. We have not seen anything yet. I did reach out to the county treasurer and asked what the deal was, and they, as of today, have not received any kind of reporting from the state. So at this point, we're now 5 months in and we have no visibility at all on what our cannabis tax may be. So, I'm finding that a little frustrating because, we're certainly hoping that's going to be something that helps our revenue long term. So, the county said that they would certainly get in touch with me as soon as they had any information. So I'm hopeful by next month we will have something to report on that. And then mortgage tax, as a reminder, we just get 2 payments of that a year. You can see that the first quarter payment was a little lower than we might have hoped at 71,000 against a budget of 220. Again, it's very variable. That number is one of the most variable ones, both from year to year and also in terms of the first and the second payments. It all depends on what's happening with the real estate market. So all we can do is continue to look at that. So I had mentioned this before, the annual financial report has been filed with OSC. It is available on the city website. That would be under the financial records for fiscal 2024. The auditors are scheduled to start on the week of July 7th. We're preparing and uploading all the documents that they're going to review starting now. And I anticipate the final audited statements should be available by October at the latest, which is good because we need to file it within 365 days with EMMA, which is the electronic municipal market site because we have public bonds and bans outstanding. I'm not going to go into much detail about the operational things. There's not a lot changed, but suffice it to say, my team as well as the water and sewer team have all been on like 5-hour long implementation meetings every day this past week. And so it's getting a little overwhelming. And it's a very large chunk of time that's being dedicated to this. And we've hit some issues with the databases that have been set up. So we are plowing through and trying to get that set up into place. New news, as you all know, we went out back onto the market to borrow more short-term borrowing, bond anticipation notes, a total of 7.56 million. That's basically, again, to cover the DRI connectivity project, which is, halfway done and should be finished up at some point by July or August or so of this year. And then the Ferry Street Bridge, ditto, should be complete. Problem is, we don't know when we're going to get any of the reimbursements. So we were required to go out and borrow short term against that. The good news is, long term, most of that debt will go away and it won't become long term financing. The bad news is, every year that we have to keep borrowing for short term costs, we're spending more on interest. As part of going out onto the market, there is a document called an official statement that gets issued. It's what the institutional investors look at to determine whether or not they're willing to make a bid on the notes that we're offering for investment. It is published now on the Treasury website under 2025 financials. I always recommend people read that because it's not just a picture of the financials, because it is that, but it also has a lot of information about the economy, what's happening in the city, the top, employers, various things about, pension contributions and how they're changing over time. There's just, it's exactly what you think it would be. It is a document that is supposed to inform a potential investor in bonds or notes of the city, what they need to know to make a smart investment decision. So I always recommend people read that. The sale was on June 4th. We did get 3 bids. The winning bid was a 4.25% interest. However, they also provided a premium of just over $56,000, which is basically extra money they give us over the amount that we borrow. And what that does is it net reduces the interest rate. So it's 4.25 on paper. And when we pay it out next year, we will be paying that amount. But the effective rate is 3.5%. That was actually a little better than we did last year. Last year, our net effective interest rate was 3.9. So that was a good sign. For that borrowing, we're going to pay a little over $321,000 in interest for that 1 year of borrowing. So basically we'll have the 7.616 million, which is what we borrowed plus the premium, coming in on June 18th. And then literally 2 days later, we have to pay off the borrowing that we did in 2024, which is 7.5 million plus interest of 338,000. So 7.86 million will be going out the door on June 20th. Other anticipated borrowing, we've talked about the pumper truck being delayed. So that, in my opinion, I know fire department's not happy about it, but I was not unhappy about it. We did just get some new information from EFC. It does look like we might be able to pre-finance the WQIP grant as part of the EFC financing, which is a better situation for the city as a whole. So keep your fingers crossed on that, but that looks like where that's coming in. And that is all I have.
I don't know if you can hear us.
Not here.
I hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, you had a bullet point on Paddock Place. What's the update there?
Well, the update is that there is actually, after going to court and getting it delayed again, the judge did actually set an eviction date. It is set for July 9th.
And then, I know that some monies have come in from the, taxes that were, back taxes, property taxes. So is there any update on how many people, have reached out to you or are working on doing some kind of payment plan?
Had a handful of people reach out regarding an installment plan. I have not had anybody actually make an appointment to come in. But I've had maybe 3 or 4 people reach out asking for that information. I think at this point, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I know it's more than 100,000 and probably closer to 150 or so that has been redeemed just by people finding out that they're delinquent. You know, part of the whole foreclosure process requires a lot of other communication. We're required not only to publish in the newspaper, which, you know, only the people that read the back legal sections will notice about that, but there are a group of people that like to do that. But more importantly, we are required to communicate directly with the property owners and any other entities that might have a financial interest in that property, i.e. mortgage holder, lien holder. And we have to communicate with them both through certified mail and through first class mail. So my belief is that once that communication happens, and that happens after it's been filed with the clerk, and I'm still working with the attorney to get that part put in place. But my belief is once those notices go out, we'll have a much bigger response from people because, you know, not everybody necessarily pays attention to the council meetings or the council minutes, and people may not know that they're at risk.
That was kind of what I was gonna ask about the notification. That was in the scope of work that the attorney submitted. That was like the first step was doing notification to the property owners. Do you have any idea when that's going to occur?
I do not know yet. The attorney and I have been back and forth in communication, but we haven't set a timeline yet. But my goal is to get that done in the next couple of weeks for sure. So I should be able to report back next month with more detail.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else for council? Lloyd?
Kevin, it's always a pleasure to hear your report. Nice job on the bond deal. So so my second FOIL request, did you receive all my FOIL requests? There was one this morning and you're.
This isn't really the place, right?
I'm just asking.
No, I know, but it's not really the time.
Would you just not cut off my public input?
It's not really public. You're asking about FOIL requests. That's handled separately. Not.
You can answer it or not.
Yes, Lloyd, both of those were forwarded to my office.
And you understand why I would ask for that, right? And I'm looking forward, response.
Can we move on to council work?
Yes. Rob, are you there?
I'm here.
There you go.
I'm here to save the day. Okay, what do we got? Share screen. Boom, 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 boom. All righty, good. Septage revenue for April was $51,646. So, as you know, it's we have a standard distribution curve with our septage revenue, and the warmer months make up for the lower, colder months. So, as expected, this is a unusual view. This is actually inside of one of the original stone sewers. This is actually 6 feet high. You can see the laid up stone that's on the bottom of the wall. That's actually a brick, all done by hand, arch that goes over top. The base, part of those stones are actually have fallen out from the sides. Also, some of them were originally on the bottom, and there were wooden oak boards that were on top of them because the original design concept was that the wood would be underwater all the time, under flow. But once the original sewer plant was built and the pump stations were put in the 60s, all of that wood that was there dry rotted. And then as you had overflows, CSO overflows, which are always, by definition, high volume, they scarified the wood out and then began to undermine all these base stones that are underneath it. It's actually a pretty deep hole. And in the back of the hole, you'll see where the boots are. That's a weir. That's basically a dam. The flow is active on the other side of that, and it's actually being diverted into a sewer main that goes to the pump station. And on the top left, you'll see in the circle, that's actually a discharge pipe. That was a storm line that was put in when we converted an old force main that was installed in the 1840s that used to bring river water to our sand filters. Then when we put the reservoir online in the 1900s, that became abandoned, and then we converted it to a storm line, tying it in at its point of partition to this side downstream of the overflow weir. And on the right, you'll see that same plastic pipe I just described going along. The the brown main is actually the force main. That's the main that comes from the pump station, pushes the sewage over the hill where it dumps into a manhole on Columbia Street, and then from there it goes to gravity to the plant. So, like I said, we usually just kind of show you little snippets of what it looks like from the top, but this was a little bit more. I like to think it was interesting. So there you go. Now to repair, the problem is the sinkhole is what's happened is our guys, we poured a concrete floor. You see the picture on the right, they formed out. This will be a new channel. And what happens is concrete gets poured on the left and poured on the right. You can see that on the picture on the left, where you now have like a solid concrete wall, and the same would be on the other side of it. And then from that, these boards that are here are creating the ceiling. And what would happen is once that was put together, they called for more concrete, pour that concrete on, let that, and then that'll harden up. And then we can backfill and hopefully get everything tidied up. So that way we don't have, we'd like to get it paved, obviously, before Flag Day. This is below the route. You know, if you're using the bridge, it's on the route if you're not. So we want to get this tidied up by the end of Friday. At the water plant, so I described how we had to update the polymer injection system. So on the right, you see the original system that was put in 2005. You know, if it looks kind of chunky with lots of wires and different types of relays and fuses, that it is. That's old school. What everything that is in this huge box is actually in this little white component on the left. So everything is updated, new, and fully functional, and we're good for that. More potholing. This will be on the left. You see a water valve. This is the curb, and then this is where it was excavated. You'll see we've done these on Robinson and Allen Street. Next, you'll see them on portions of Union Street, and these are where we were unable to determine whether either side was lead. This is part of the lead service inventory grant that we received from EFC and the health department. So we're just ongoing investigations, because then when the day is done, we have to have 100% complete inventory of exactly what is and is not at every single service. And then from there on, you know, we assume funding will come along to mitigate any of the lead services. That said, we'll be doing another round of lead copper sampling this summer. But today, since the last 20 years, we usually have non-detect or significantly below any threshold. So it currently is not an issue. We don't expect that to change. On the right, there's actually a valve, the ongoing trying to get that fountain ready for the summertime and the warm weather down at Promenade Hill. So it appears that, you know, all the jamming and bamming on it may have caused this is the pressure regulator that goes into it. This piece is actually proprietary to the fountain, and it was most plumbing fittings are, you know, could be anywhere from $5 to $25 or $50. This was actually $800. So hopefully we don't need to replace that too often. We did complete our paving project this past month, and so you've seen, you know, this is the road milled on the left. This is Parkwood, paved on the right. You know, there was a portion of Oakwood. Sometimes when there's, you know, after the two passes, there was probably about a 6 or 8 inch drop off. It's just dirt here anyway, so we put millings in, compacted it to make it level off and grade it, so that way it's all smooth and transitioned. And other than that, the paving project is, we have a couple more crosswalks to get painted by the contractor, but that's basically complete. And I've already submitted reimbursement requests to Department of Transportation to try and, be more cognizant of cash flow, get it done by their, we time this thing early in the year so that we could get the project done, get the invoices paid, get the canceled checks processed, and everything submitted by the deadline, which all worked out well. And because it is 600 some odd $1,000, and hopefully we submitted it by the deadline, so we should get it back in July. That would be July of 2025, not like some of the other enigmatic discussions of tonight. So actually, as part of the paving, I don't understand this sometimes. So I received an email from a colleague at Greenport. He says, hey, he requested somebody who, watches this show pretty regularly, and didn't believe me when I said we have a shared services agreement with other municipalities. So we do. And here's the agreement. It's updated every 5 years. What happens is there's more pages where all of the chief officers of the towns and the mayors of the villages and the city of Hudson all sign. It basically establishes, it's a good neighbor policy. If something happens, we take care of it ourselves. But one of the parts that's not listed here is that in the event of a FEMA disaster, these types of agreements are essential. Like, we have a reservoir that's in the town of Taconic. So if we need, emergency work out in Taconic, this is a way for us to partner with them or to assist them. If, like, we had heavy flows during Irene washed out part of the town's road. And so this is a mechanism where they could apply for FEMA relief as part of our project. So anyway, they do exist, and here it is. We also have, and the other part, just a small point of the shared services, by we get a lower rate ostensibly by having the towns haul the millings, and that's tangible. You're talking, I ran the math, it was probably about a $30,000 savings for those guys to come in for 1 week, and they love it. They use it because they have. Not all their roads are blacktopped like ours are, so they can use them on a lot of the back roads, on shoulders along the other roads. It doesn't really have much of a use for us, so everybody does benefit. Pre-Flag Day, so again, annually we patch up the L&B property. Yes, it's been discussed as private property. Yes, I've discussed it. It's one of those legacy deals where somebody said fire and EMS use it as emergency egress, and the deal was that we would patch it. So here we go again. And this is one of our mechanics bringing the boat out for, it wasn't requested, but I assume you wanted it again this year. So we've got the boat out of storage, and they'll spend next couple days cleaning it all up for you. Coolers not included. So a couple of group efforts, if you will. This is the Winifred down at Promenade Hill, and there was a group with the Rotary. I believe the Secret Gardener was involved, and maybe one of the other landscapers. Our job was to take away the stuff they didn't want and provide water, but just the basic logistic stuff on our end, but mostly driven by the Rotary and those other volunteers. There's a similar thing taking place in the Pocket Park in the 200 block of Warren Street with some people from the Starting Place, and they wanted to kind of spruce up the children's play area, so they ordered some mulch. We went out and picked it up and delivered it. We'll put down a fabric membrane so they can put the mulch on it. And I guess they want to paint swing sets, so Foreman went with them to pick out colors and the type of paint for it. So that's a project that you'll probably see it taking place in the next month, I would imagine. Union Street planters. So a lot of the trees didn't survive. Some are still trying to. The ones that died, we removed the last of them and removed the soil down to the fabric, and then we'll be installing new trees and new soil in the next upcoming weeks. DRI, so, wrapping up, as the treasurer stated, this is Warren and Second. You can see ADA ramps in. These are the pavers that are kind of coming in to create a neutral area. The dirt area behind, that's going to have landscaping, a couple of ornamental trees, if you will, and some bushes of some sort. I don't have memorized the whole plan, but you'll see some greenery added to the space as well. It is wrapping up. Here you see, this is the fun. This curb is actually going to be flush with the new road. The curbing height is higher over here on the right. But this is, the end of the Front Street scope of the project and approaching the bridge. And speaking of the bridge, so, when we were dealing with the National Grid issue, there was a hole out here in the street, and there was this hole that was in the middle of our construction site. The sidewalks had to go alongside north of them. There's also guardrails that have to go in there. The street lights, you can see the electrical conduit. So they did show up on Friday. They put everything together. At that point, contractor backfilled everything. And from that point on, it's been, where'd it go? It's been all, fully, so everything's been backfilled, compacted, and this is the finished product. This is blacktopped over to keep everything from eroding. The next step is this guardrail has to continue down along the top of the kind of knoll, if you will, inside the fence and wrap around the corner. So we have the water main installed inside. This is the gas main installed, pressurized. Here you're seeing the curbing for a project on the west side. Here's curbing and sidewalks poured. So guardrail on the bridge itself. So, of these are all done. You can see the curbing is done. The sidewalks are poured. They're fine. All the soil protection around it is in place. The next thing that we have is the guardrails have to be installed on either side of the bridge on the approaches. And that requires somebody to come in with a pounder. So they've just called in their locates now that those utilities have to be cleared so they can come install them. The street lights, I believe, are on schedule for Wednesday to be installed and energized. And the approaches, they did the base coat today. The top coat is supposed to go on tomorrow, I believe. So at this point, it's going to be fencing and railings, which are the major holding points. And if you can see, this is an example, the contractors put on temporary fencing, and they're going to mount this all the way around. So that way, when it is open for pedestrians on Flag Day, obviously we don't want people, falling down onto the tracks or off of the retaining walls, which are significantly higher than the ground around them. So you've already heard from the chief that it'll be open for pedestrians for Flag Day. And, other than that, it's nuts and bolts stuff. I did want to, discuss, because it seems to be that, a lot of new people to town, they don't realize some of this, what's been going on over the last decade. So just some finer points of history. The bridge was closed on Columbus Day weekend of 2014. That was 3,892 days ago. I counted on my fingers and toes. So what happened is, there was, the bridge was finally getting extremely low ratings from DOT. And so one of the things that was decided in 2015 or 2014 was to start a capital reserve for the bridge. And so that was in November of 2014, a month after the bridge was closed. And, then in 2015, there was a line item for $35,000 to do an engineering assessment, because all the applications for the money and you have to start somewhere. And so that's how we started. And I believe that engineering assessment is still on the DPW website. if you want to go down memory lane. I believe the final bridge inspections are also still on the DPW page of the city's website. So after that, in April of 16, the Transportation Advisory Council had some money left over from a different project within the county. And so that was our next amount of seed money. It ended up being about $985,000. The next year, largely through a member item from Assembly Member Dee Dee Barrett, all of a sudden we had a supplemental agreement, which now brought the project up over $4 million. And, since then we've received about $3 million in state touring route money that can also be go towards the bridge. So, that's our funding sources, but you can see, some of the funding sources were over a decade ago, and some of them we just received some of the state touring route money, 2 weeks ago. Then there was, all the environmental, archaeological, and historical both went to SHPO. The historical was thrown out as ineligible because it was a piece of a bridge from Albany. It wasn't original. It wasn't, it was kind of salvaged when it moved here. So that was thrown out. Archaeological, the ground had been disturbed so many times over Hudson's history that nothing was deemed to be significant there. So there was no effect. Fish and wildlife, we had to do NEPA, I believe, twice because of the extensions of the project. That's the federal version of seeker. Then we had to get two right-of-ways and acquisition for temporary easements. One was the Half Moon Terrace, which is the terrace apartments, which that took relatively smoothly. The other one was for that little park on the west side of the bridge, which had to not only include the signature of the commissioner of Parks and Rec for New York State, but also the signature of the state controller. So, there's a lot of really, really moving pieces that, got us up to where we are today, including design review. You can see we first engaged the railroads in 2019. We got an engineer in 17. We started with DOT in 17, and we didn't get all these different versions of review. We didn't get a final approval to actually go to construction for 6 years after the original design. And then after that, this is just the punch list stuff, for construction. Bid in 2023, open 23 contracts. 23, we started. They spent 3 months waiting for entry permits. We have the Borg on here. We spent 3 months waiting for entry access permits from Amtrak. Once we got into work with there, then was a holdup with the bearings, and now we are where we are. We're close. We're really, really close. But just so everybody gets it all in one place, this is of this you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 mayors. You've got 3 council presidents. You've got, I don't know, probably 50 to 75 resolutions. 2 treasurers. It's there's a lot that's gone into getting us where we are, and soon enough it'll be over, and you'll be able to say, I remember when. So that's all I have.
And that's my question. Any questions from?
Yes.
Lola?
Why do we not use caution tape and cones much? Some of those areas, the sidewalks aren't safe. My mom had a fall on Thursday waiting for the bus. She lost her footing. And I noticed that there were no caution tape or cones in those areas, and they're still not there. Warren Street, North Front Street, going up the one picture you showed us, that's where she fell at. And when I went by there today, there's also rocks, but there's no caution tape, there's no cones.
Okay. The entire street is a construction zone. There's barrels and pylons all over it. She could file a claim against the city. It's the contractors, the contractor is Louisi. I can forward their insurance information and you can file a claim against them.
Yes, I understand that, but why are there no cones there or caution tape so people won't go over in that area? That's what I'm asking. There should be used cones there, that's to give people a warning.
Yeah, I'm not sure what we're talking about. We're talking about where the planting strip's supposed to be, or?
I'm talking about those spaces that are open. I'm talking about work that's not complete. Some areas on Warren Street, there's like cones, so like by the store, for instance, there are
Right.
cones out. But some other areas on Warren Street, there's nothing. In front of the terrace, there's gaps. There's nothing to stop someone from falling over into the gaps.
Okay, well, we got a meeting with a contractor. Well, I got a meeting with a contractor later this week. Well, tape it off.
For that,
Oh, all right, thank you.
Any
Yeah,
other
sure.
questions?
Quick question. Great work with the new paved roads. I was just wanted to ask, what is the criteria and what is the when you choose the roads that need to be done? And what time of the year do you do that usually?
We choose them because usually they're pretty bad. It's not it's not an overly, it's not like there's some scoring matrix or some rubric. And then from there, we take the worst ones and we get an idea of what we've got from an appropriation from DOT, because that's the constraints we work in. There are other municipalities that actually match what DOT gives the city, the local municipality, so you can do a much larger project, but that's not the case in Hudson. So, we get we get for the chips and the paver in New York and the other projects, we ended up getting about $300,000 this year, 325. The project that we did this year was $650,000. So that's 2 years worth of money to go to one project.
How much does it cost, for example, Parkwood? How much was that project?
Oh, I don't know,
Paving.
price. Parkwood only had one layer because of the reveals. It was a couple thin, or it wasn't that expensive. It was like maybe 80,000. But you can figure the whole project. So you can see the streets that we did, and the whole project ended up being about $650,000.
Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah, thanks.
Real quick, there was another pocket park planting, maybe you touched about it last month, but, State Street between Third and Fourth, there's the pollinator garden, which is now in like Enchelbrink Park there. And, is there water there? That was planted by Britt Zuckerman with the grant from the Spartan Hudson people, so now there's pollinator, there's plant there, but is there water there?
That I really want to say yes, but that we did that project. I think that was like a 2011 project. I don't. You're talking about the one between State and Long Alley?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe there is. I can send the water department down there to look there, because isn't there like a little bowl fountain or something?
Yeah, it used to work even up until recently, so now there's the plantings there, so it'd be great if there was water there too.
Yeah, all right, I'll send the guys over tomorrow to take a look at it.
All right, thank you, Roy.
Sure.
Okay, right on. Thank you, Rob.
You got it.
And, council members, I'll be sending along DPI for the parade information tonight, tomorrow morning. Okay, we have 3 resolutions. Shall make introductions and seconds. First resolution, appointing commissioner duties. We have an introduction in a second. Margaret. Second resolution, discussed a little bit earlier. And I have a transfer from the red dot site duty appointments. Can I have an introduction to Margaret Blunt? The third is a budget transfer for integrated training on Anna Northwood. Fourth resolution designates this month as LGBTQ plus month. Can I have an introduction? Fourth one is LGBT.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
people who are supporting this, did you deal with this at the CAC?
I was gonna say, I don't know what you're talking about.
You said we're gonna, I guess. You did. We'll put that off to. They're gonna be here next week to talk about it. The next resolution is renewing our grant writing services with the bird. An introduction of some. And. And the last is an MOU with the Friends of Hudson Youth. Can I have an introduction in a second? And John. Okay, thank you. Lastly, we have two new proposed laws. I'm going to do it in reverse. One that Councilmember Randy has been requesting, changing the who deals with the floodplain approvals. And then the second one is clarifying a section of chapter 325 of the Hudson City Code as it relates to the development of the dock at the waterfront. Any questions?
Do you want me to speak a little to the clarification of the code? That's something I've spent some time doing.
Well, I actually have somebody else who would sort of put this forward.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
We've talked.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to, this is a very simple piece of clarification. The only thing that changed here, when you look at between now and next week, the original code did not specify how the determination of baseline would be made. So two paragraphs were added on the second page, A and B, that give a methodology for determining what the baseline is. So essentially, when in 2011, when this piece of code was written, the activity was not to be expanded, but there was no definition of how to establish that baseline. So what this does here is really it gives assistance to the planning board in applying the code and in understanding. There is data from 2015 that Colorado Soap provided through Great Manning, and that's basically what's used here. But it's a very simple clarification to the code. And so I know.
Yes, I also want to add that it's not comment basically on the mitigations involved. It's not a comment on what they are doing. It's clarifying the law. John, do you want to answer? And then, yeah, I don't know what to call former council member.
Unprecedented caveman. Yes, it's to what Margaret said, it's pretty simple. The law should be clear. So I think it's a good duty of the council to step up and make sure that there's clarity to the zoning code for all parties involved. So it provides great guidance. And, we have a lot of great businesses there that we have their interest balance, and also going forward, extractive planning. Furthermore, even technically speaking, so I know that you comprehensive plan, we talked about perhaps adopting form-based code. And this just goes to show you when you have really clear understanding of the law, it helps with development in general anywhere. So I think it really improves the council to do this. Just for your clarity.
Thank you, John. Big question for Councilman. So we're right along. Old business and new business, council members? Comment?
The clerk got a request from a family to name part of a street Charlie's Way. I'd like to sponsor that and you take it to the next step. if possible.
What street?
Charlie Butterworth. He used a long time superintendent. His daughters put applications in to city clerk. So
What street?
it was down, I think it was part of the Front Street. The name of Charlie's Way. Down on Front Street. He did a lot with Flag Day and, all that. So I can send everyone the copy of the application. You guys haven't got it.
Dominic, is familiar with the process in the charter?
Yeah. Yeah, one of us can sponsor it.
Right.
And then it has to wait for 60 days, right? Then we review it.
But it also has to go through review between, I think, the HPD.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Just a reminder. For all that.
Yeah.
We've done one so far.
Yeah.
So we have some experience doing it. Any other council members? Public online.
I'm sorry, I
Oh.
have a question. Where did this come from?
Dominic will explain.
Well,
Why you wanted the floodplain?
so right now, the floodplain review lies in the responsibility of the HCDPA,
Executive director.
executive director, which there is no executive director, so I'm now the acting executive director just to get the floodplain review done for the Calaruso Road, which has now been completed. But it should not be in HCDPA's review. It should definitely be in code, just because of nature. And with all the new projects coming, I think we need to move it forward into code enforcement since it's part of, permitting process. Don't ask me why don't ask me why it was put in HCDPA.
When the final steps of the whole were being done, this came up that there had to be some sign off by the executive director of HCD. And there had to be a engagement of an engineer by the executive director to do the evaluation. So we made Dominic the executive director until we get it finished.
Prior to the Calaruso Road, the last time the permit was done was when L&B came in the 80s. That's how long it's been done. So, yeah, right. So, and since it really, and again, it doesn't belong where it is, it needs to go into code since it's part of the process of permitting. So basically just taking it from there and putting it into code.
Any other comments, questions?
Maybe you can help me understand this. So there's someone that's got a very large pond in Greenville. She had some ideas about how to clear it out. Was there a point person in that?
There's quite, department, is responsible for building it. That was the answer.
Is that what you're telling me that?
That's what he was trying to do, I think.
I've spoken to Calvin, I understand that, but I'm asking the council, I'm asking, so are you telling me that you are responsible for fleet management?
Correct.
Thank you.
I think Crystal had a comment.
I'm good, actually. Never mind.
Okay. Okay, then, motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.